OSPOlogy, we always said your OSPO is not my OSPO. We've seen so many open source program offices being organized in different structures with different naming across different regions, and sometimes it's difficult to build a standard template on how to build an OSPO or how OSPOs should be made. That's why we create this open space of collaboration to let people that are either engaging with OSPOs or similar open source initiatives or open source leaders across the globe to share their experiences so everyone can have access to this open knowledge and contribute to new versions. Talking about open source policies, Jan, OSPO leader at Postman, recently shared in the channel a really interesting article on how Postman decided to develop their open source policy and how they are dividing those into different sections on using, contributing, creating open source, and using open source in tech stack of your product. For those who are new to Todo or just starting getting engaged in the community, we have active OSPO working group that are hosted by the Todo community or OSPO associates. The three main active working group this year divided into best practices, education, and value. Some appreciation for the work that our Todo local ambassadors has been doing in the past few months, especially to Kowata and Gregory from Finland and Japan. They have been doing great job in organizing the local OSPO meetups. And for those who would like to start contributing, there are different ways to contribute, not only contributing to code, but also helping write documentation, translate, host regional syncos, present at OSPOlogy, such as Barbara and Marilisa, or report backs. All these meetings are recorded and uploaded in our OSPOlogy YouTube channel, including this one. So Barbara and Marilisa are today's OSPOlogy guests, and they helped Xunta de Galicia to have document on open source licensing. For those who doesn't know where Galicia is in the northwest of the Iberian Peninsula. Again, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you. If there is any questions, I will be sharing those during the presentation.
Thank you, Anna. I'm Marilisa Blanco, and this is my colleague Barbara. We want to start saying thanks, a big and huge thank you to Anna for inviting us and for the Todo group for having us here. I want to say to anyone that is listening to us or that has any kind of question, please don't be shy and share it with us through the chat, because we are going to be more comfortable if we can answer the question in the meantime of our presentations. Barbara, if you want to do the introduction, please.
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm going to explain you how our OSPO in Galicia, in Xunta de Galicia works. So if you have any questions, because I love your motto, your OSPO is not my OSPO, especially when you are working in public administration. And Mari is going to explain everything about the guide. My proposal is to explain what we have been doing in the last 2 years with the OSPO in Xunta de Galicia as legal advisors, because, you know, there are not much lawyers working in technology field, how this OSPO exists, because I think it's a lovely story as well, and how this OSPO works. Well, we have been working, as I said, in the last 2 years with the Xunta de Galicia, although Maria and I are lawyers related to technology and to software for the last 6 years. What have we been doing in these 2 years? Well, mostly we tell people what to do with software licenses and what they cannot do with this software. That's the main of our work. We have been solving queries in open source licenses. We have been giving conferences, training for citizens and for public administrations. We have elaborated this guide. We are already working in a second guide for this year with the focus on entrepreneurship from the public administration in order to work with free software. Actually, we have found a place where we can experiment between law, licensing, and technology. And I would like to thank the other half of the team, Jorge and Pablo, because they are amazing, always open to our ideas, and our head of office, Ushia Romero. She's actually the only of us who is a public servant. Uxia works currently for the Xunta de Galicia in the field of innovation, and Pablo, Jorge, Marilisa, and I, we are the team of this open source office. How did we end working here? So briefly, it was a public and open selection process. In year 28, I think, the government in Galicia decided that technology and digitalization of the society was really something important in the politics. So they created this office. Igalia, I'm sure this name sounds some of you. Igalia was the first responsible for these offices for this office in the first years, and then Icarto won the process 2 years ago, and then since then we have been working with them together. And how does an open source office in public administration exist? We have an internal function as public office for the public administration. That means we try that Xunta de Galicia as government release software that the people who works in these offices and in this administration understand what open software and free software means. And we try to help them to follow these tricky paths sometimes between bureaucrats, politics, techs, and lawyers. But we have a second dimension, and I think that's our main difference with other OSPOs, because we are here for the citizens. Our three main points for working are public administration, to help the businesses and companies, enterprise in Galicia to understand and profit open source and free software, but we are serving the citizens too. So to support the private initiative from the public administration as OSPO. How does an open source office promote and encourage the use of free software in the society? For example, this guide we are presenting you, the second guide who is coming at the end of the year probably. We review the licenses. We review that all software that is used, it's currently used, that they are accomplish all life conditions, and where there is a conflict or a problem, we try to solve them. Maria, I don't know if you want to share how the process of this guide was.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
We were looking for some easy way to educate and to share information about how to apply the free licenses and open licenses to documents and images and the software. So we were thinking in the best way to do it, and we come up to that the guide was a really cool idea. Pablo, one of our companions that Barbara was mentioning before, he was into this because he was reviewing all the information and he was taking a special care about the guide. We decided to make this guide in one document because this document is easy to navigate because we have ordered the content in 3 branches. Little notes about copyright, second chapter about the protection of the content. When we are talking about contents, we are talking about documents, text, videos, images, drawings, etc. Any kind of content that the public administration could make, do, or create. And it should be open for the world and for the citizens, for anyone that can use them. And the third chapter is related to software because it has some kind of difference and some kind of particularities that made them advisable to make another chapter by itself. Every time we have to advise about how to protect content or how to apply open source license, we had to explain the very beginnings, and the very beginnings is copyright. Is the law that protects any kind of intellectual creation that is original and it's expressed. We call derechos de autor, that has a little difference between the meaning of copyright in English and the common law system, and between the Spanish system. So we had this little difference. We tried to explain what is this important, what are the key ideas that we have to protect and to respect if we want to use the third-party contents or own contents, what we can do to make it free for anyone to use it. By the way, this is Lechat. This is our main start of our OSPO because it has even a video explaining about the guide and how we can use it. We use a lot of images to explain all this information because we try to do it in a plain language because we don't want it to be difficult guide, or with a different vision from the citizen's view. I think that I can say that we made a good job, because most of the people that has read this guide has tell us that it was easy to follow and easy to understand, and the design was clear. We explained the Creative Commons licenses because we highly recommend to use Creative Commons licenses because they are easy to understand, they are easy to find, and they have this iconography that you can follow without any kind of doubt. It's enough to see the images and say, okay, I have to recognize the people, I have to make the correct attributions, share alike, or I can't do any commercial exploitation, or I can't do any derivative works. And also we have documentation in a website that have different layers to explain the licenses. First of all, we have a brief review, and then we have all the legalized text and wordings that is usual for our profession. Also, we divide into copyleft licenses and open source, and we also explain how we work with public contracts, projects that comes from the European Union, and who is going to be the copyright owner of the works. If you have some copyright infringement or someone says that we are infringing the rights, it's all in this guide. To make it easier, we made this infographic, so if you have any kind of question or if you have any kind of doubt, you just have to come here and say, well, what are the works that are protected by copyright? What are the licenses? What is an open license? And you can find it here. And then we come here, content protection, and we have here again introduction, how to check who is the copyright owner, what happened with the text and the fonts that we are using, and how can we release works that apply these licenses. We recommend which kind of licenses to use in the public administration, how to work with the manuals, and also we explain how to apply these licenses. We put some examples here with the text that we have to attach to the documents, and well, all kind of examples for images, for videos, for even music, and which formats we have to use, because not all formats are free or open to use. When we come to software, we did just the same. We explained what are the particularities of software, because it has some different points in the legislation. So we explained which laws are applying to this creation, why is a good idea to release the software, and which is the perfect moment to release it. Then we explain how to release them, how to choose a license. And here I can say that I feel really happy to hear some people that has read the guide to say, okay, I can choose a license, and I think that it will be a good idea to use an MIT or maybe a GPL license, but I was wondering if it was a good idea to make a dual license. Can you tell me what are the advantages or disadvantages of this decision? And I feel that they understand in a better way what were they talking about. And I think it was thanks to this kind of guide, because they read it carefully. And also we made a lot of Q&A strategy, and also we had explained the dual licensing, how to prepare the code, and how to apply the documentation and publish the software. So we made a little summary about each license that was more popular in that time. I think it's easier to compare them. You can see which are the conditions of the license, what limitation it has, and what does it permit to the user. We are trying to make people to translate this this guide. For example, we were trying to make some people to translate it to Spanish, because this is in Galego.
I would like to make some little points before Mari share the screen and the guide with you. First, it is made in Galicia. That was an important issue, because as we released this guide, the first question we received was, it's not in Spanish. Now it's not in Spanish because we work for a public administration. Our language is Galician, Galego, so it is made in Galego. Although Marilisa came from Valencia and she has made a great effort with the language, it is what it is. It is a free license for the content, so if somebody in Madrid or in Barcelona or in Paris would like to translate the guide into Spanish, English, French, feel free to do it. I think it's the first guide about free software licensing in Galego. I'm quite sure, but I think it's the first guide who is made in a language, in a minority language. And I think that's important too. If we are talking here about spread the word and advocating for new technologies and for free software and open software, there are people who speak our as well minority languages, and I think it's important to point this. The second point, Marilisa has been so rushed about that, it's the plain language. It was easier to fix the contents and to create an index with the points, PA, general, introduction, content, software, licensing, we make a map, we try to share, to compare, blah, 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 blah. That was easier than to translate everything into plain language. We would like to point this because normally all these guides are too technical or too lawyerish. And we really wanted that the content was easily understandable for all people. We had this morning, Mare, you had this morning a meeting with people from the university in Santiago de Compostela. They read the guide, they had some questions about the license, and they just asked for a meeting in order to be sure what they were doing. And I think that's great. And that's the point of all this. That's our main goal, that people from academic field with a project that had nothing to do with technology, they just make like a super repo of resources and info, and they wanted to share that to the public. Your OSPO is not my OSPO, but we are here to serve the university as well. We ask for the data because we would like to have the metrics as well, but public administration had another piece, different. We are not sure how many people download the guide, but we had some really interesting questions and proposals from people around Spain about that, and that feels so great. We have been working in this guide almost 1 year, and of course, Mare, you did an amazing work with the design. I haven't said that enough. So we just hope that other people can feel more confident to use the language and try to explain everything and make it simple.
All legal documents, when I have read them in the past, seem so boring. I think it's great. Make it easier for people that they don't need to be legal. They need to understand the important matters that the legal people is trying to educate them.